Hey, it's TJ Fisher here with Drums for Success. I want to talk about intentional essentials. Now, there are a lot of opportunities for you to advance yourself, but you have to be prepared when the opportunity presents itself. Okay, so meaning if you are going to a gig, you got to know more than just the popular songs on the radio. Don't get me wrong, there are some great songs on the radio, but a lot of the gigs, if you're going to play in certain venues, a lot of what's popular is the top 40 bands, where you're playing like a lot of 90s songs, you know, Do I Do, Stevie Wonder, I Wish, Frankie Beverly Mays, Before I Let Go, Happy, Pharrell. You know, these are common songs that you're going to hear on the bandstand in these party types atmosphere, and you want to make sure you know those things. So most important thing, here's some tips to help you out to learn some of these songs. Tip number one, if you hear a song at a jam session, 9 times out of 10 it's probably a popular song, or it's probably a common song. So you want to make sure that you go and learn that song, study it verbatim, know it note for note, know all the hits, look up a couple of different versions, because different people might do it different ways. So that's just one tip to make sure you are prepared. Tip number two, if you're gonna go for a gig, have integrity. You gotta be there at the gig. You gotta make sure you're there on time. You want to get there more than enough time, so even if there's stuff on the set list that you might not even know about, or that you might need to learn, you'll know all that in advance. But if you show up right before the gig, there's no way that you can be prepared for things that you didn't take into account before the situation actually happened. So you want to make sure you have the most integrity as possible. People are just looking for consistency, and you showing up on time, and you being a great player, and all those things. Tip number three, there is no replacement for you actually working hard. Working hard is part of your job. I tell my students all the time that my job as a professional, now I'm getting paid to learn. I'm not getting paid to play, I'm getting paid to learn, right? Because the greatest teachers are the greatest students. You are now in the position where people are paying you because you have a certain set of knowledge or a certain set of skills, and to be able to utilize those, you have to work on those skills. Because right? I mean, if you don't have the ability to utilize those skills right off the bat, you don't have mastery of the skills. And mastery of the skills doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean you can do everything exactly the way it's supposed to be 100% of the time. You just have consistency. And you want to develop that consistency as a person, as an instrumentalist, and you just want to have a great skill set so that people have confidence when they call you. All right, next tip. If you're planning a gig, if you're planning an event, make sure you do it within enough time to contact all the people that are going to be a part of this. You want to get your bass player, drummer, saxophone, keyboard, whatever you have to be part of the gig. You want to contact them before it's time for you guys to have it. You know, have your rehearsals, get everything together. Don't try to get somebody last minute. Make sure you give them within enough time to know. Talk about budget. Talk about how much everybody's gonna get paid. You know, work that out with the venue. Are we gonna have checks ready before? You know, figure out how you're gonna split up the money. Those are things that you want to do before the gig actually happens, so you don't have to worry about it. I learned from a friend, rest in peace, great Ricky Lawson. He would get there 2-3 hours before anybody even got there, because he was just so adamant about being prepared. So you want to make sure you're prepared for any opportunity that presents itself. Next tip, managing money. You want to make sure that when you are getting paid from your gigs, you want to utilize the full potential of your money. So let's say I'm making $100 a gig. Hopefully I get to the point to where I'm making that money and things like that. What are you doing with your money after you make it? You should be possibly investing in equipment or putting the money in the bank, make sure you have life insurance, maybe a 401k, a savings account, something to be able to give you some longevity, if anything happens, if you get sick, or anything like that. You want to make sure you utilize all the opportunities to be able to use the money that you're getting for your gigs to be able to take care of yourself, your family. I have a wife and a daughter, so I have to make sure my household is taken care of. There's things to consider, besides clothes and shoes. There's rent, there's electricity bills, all these things that come along with actually living life. So you want to make sure you manage your money the best way that you can. You do not need the latest and the greatest equipment to be able to do the things that you do. A set does not make me play better as a drummer, or the latest and greatest set doesn't make me play better as a drummer. I remember when I was younger, I wanted to get the latest and greatest thing. Oh, I need this new snare. I need this. I need that. No, you need to invest in the things that you have. Invest in your equipment. So if you got a drum set and your heads are working fine, you got you a good set of cymbals, and you've invested it, great stands and stuff like that, then that's great. That's what you need. You don't need a million other, 5 drum sets, because that money could be going towards, other things that you have. So you need to test your equipment. Is everything working? Is everything working fine? Is all your buttons on there? Are your knobs working? Your bass pedal, do you need heads? Do you need chords? As a drummer, I have multiple things that I utilize on a gig that a drummer wouldn't normally have. So I have to make sure that I'm prepared in any situation. Alright, last and final tip, which I think is one of the most important besides you actually being able to be a great player, is networking. Talking to people. When you go to a gig, once you get off the stage, people want to know who you are. I like the word tangible. People shaking your hand, you saying hi, you greeting people, you meeting other musicians at different venues. These are the things that afford you more opportunities for people to know who you are. And the more people know who you are, the easier it is for you to get connected with people that could potentially, set up you for future gigs. I've met many of musicians at jam sessions that I later on became acquainted with and wind up working with. Or people be, I'll go around LA and people be like, hey, you're that little guy that plays the drums, hey, and we had that camaraderie, and so, consequently, not that I'm famous, but, a lot of the places I go, people know who I am, and that's just a testament of me, networking, talking to people, and just being real. People want to meet you as a real musician. People don't want to think you're cocky. People don't want to think you're stuck up or nothing. People just want to just know you. So, above all things, none of this stuff means anything without practice. The biggest problem that we have a lot of times as musicians is we don't have enough discipline. Not enough discipline to play the same thing, or not enough discipline to work on just this thing. A lot of, that's the biggest problem a lot of times. Somebody asked me, what's the hardest thing about playing drum set? I told them discipline, because you have to sit there and make your limbs line up consistently, and it just takes practice. So make sure you guys are practicing. Make sure you put in time. You can tell when people put in time. You can tell the difference. You can hear it. They know their stuff. And it's not just enough for you to just try to mimic something or something, study. Music theory is one of the best things you can know, especially as a drummer, because think about it, everybody else in the band already knows music theory. So why not as a drummer would you want to know the same thing that everybody else does? Plus, it helps you. Thinking melodically turns your world around on drummers. It makes you think in a different way. So if you're thinking melodically on the drums, you get the melodic aspect as well as the rhythmic aspect, And you put those two together, and you're a beast. You know, there's tons of people that have utilized that. Max Roach, Tony Williams, just Keith Carlock. The greats. Dave Weckl, Dennis Chambers, all those people like that. They understand melody, harmony, and most important, phrasing. You're trying to learn how to create sentences. You're trying to learn how to have a conversation with other musicians. So you're always developing phrasing. You're always developing things to say. Chops are cool, and you can do chops all day. But at the end of the day, if those chops are not creating synthesis, they're just chops. You have to be able to develop sentences and paragraphs, and putting those small snippets and paragraphs together are what make conversation. And if you're always talking and talking and talking, you never leave room for anything to say. How can a conversation even be had? It'd be like, you go into a gig with your fist closed and it's full of money. You can't get paid, or people can't pay you because everything is tight. So you got to be open and willing when you're in different musical situations for you to be able to flourish. So I'm TJ Fisher here with Drums for Success. I hope these tips help you, and that's what Drums for Success is about. Just trying to make you a better musician, as opposed to just all these other things. So follow us at Drums for Success, and that's on all platforms. Facebook, Twitter, things like that. So hope this blesses you. This is TJ Fisher signing out. Peace from Drums for Success.